Greetings from the workshop. We'll be recording a series of videos, general orientation type, covering a couple of different themes or zones of concern. First, practice, techniques of meditation, techniques of breathing, some body work, etc. Things that we practically do to cultivate our mind, our body, and our entire existence into something more refined, more crystallized, basically something better, perhaps something perfect. That's tall order, but we're aiming in that general direction, right? So there's practice. Practice, number one, is coupled with I don't want to say philosophy, clear view, coherent sense of what's going on, looking at the basic layers, the strata of the mind, how the mind functions, what the major aspects of the mind are. We're not looking at fantastic metaphysical constructs. We're looking at something that can be experienced in the here and now, something that can be embodied and operationalized, something we might call a living wisdom, a living philosophy, something that is connected and interconnected, something that is actually meaningful, not just interesting. Then, for the third thing, we'll be necessarily peddling with some Indian antiques, old teachings. Not that we have to, but that seems to be the cool and ticklish thing to do. And it's also good for us to have some frames of reference, points of reference. The dude's not just talking out of his hat of happy ideas. There is actually some sort of a history, grounding, and path of practice that existed before this. Again, from these ancient wares, both practice and philosophy will be extracting the essence, looking at why the good sage and wizard actually saying what he did, what was going on, what was the strategy, what was the undercurrent, what was the intention that would be accomplished by these sayings, rather than generating fantastic castles in imagination. We don't want to reach imaginary mental enlightenment where you have a lot of ideas brewing in your head, and this murky porridge, when you're shaking it long enough, gives you the false belief. I actually get it. Now you only get words, you don't get experiences from that. Regardless, they yield themselves to application and experience, so we'll be looking at those two. And then, as the fourth one, there is obviously going to be questions, and there will be answers matching those questions. So we'll do some Q&A recordings, important questions, and glosses on how we go about understanding things in a manner that makes sense, right? We want to be making sense here. We don't want to peddle in belief. We want to be real about what's going on, actuality type real. So that's there. Now there's a chance that there will be more batshit floating in orbit than the bats in the Kiskendo cave will produce in 100 years. And there is also a certain stream of living waters, nourishing what's being conveyed. You don't have to drink everything to the pits. It is a buffet, a field of reference that you explore, that you experiment with, that you apply according to your temperament. And this is mostly spontaneous, occasionally scripted to a basic framework where we actually have a clear sequence that needs to be conveyed in a gist by gist, free of clutter. I may talk about Indian philosophies and put on my cool gear, polish up the appearance for shits and giggles, basically. Mostly we are trying to be down to earth, dealing with unpretentious, basic content. Alright? First in line, and we'll get to this in more detail, just to give you basic bearings. When we're looking at something like meditation, now there's you and there's the other guy and the other gal and a whole world of people with different backgrounds, different orientations, different temperaments, landing in different situations, different challenges, and also different supports in the contexts that they are in. And each of those situations and individuals needs an application that is adapted to their particular parameters, right? Suppose meditation is a type of concentration, and suppose I'm staring at the tip of my nose for hours on end. Is that going to function? For someone it will. For many of us, that's not the thing to do, even though it's a basically valid thing to do. Someone else might be kicking back, staring at the clouds and pondering the expanse of the sky and the universe in order to gain a bit of space from their claustrophobic situation. For them, that may be fine, but for you or for the other guy, that might be too broad and too drifty. They need something more compact. The mind needs to be brought to the optimal containment. Concentration, meditation is a field of containment. We withdraw the mind from the hyper-stimulated reality surrounding us, bring it to a particular zone, whether sitting in a whatever lotus or whatever you're sitting in, or laying down on the floor, trying not to fall asleep, walking around. The options are many. It's not tied to a particular physical orientation, right? In that situation, whether in an activity, suppose I'm gardening, I'm surfing, I'm painting the walls, I'm just doing that. I'm painting the walls, and I'm watching the paint dry, and I'm being happy about it. I'm finding a certain tranquility and satisfaction in the process, simply because my mind has been contained in a single field, in a single orb, right? And now what the size of the orb and what the level of compression or expansion is, that depends on your exact situation. Suppose we got a clamp here, right? And you can, here's the mind space. You can bring it to a very tight point of concentration. But just practically squeeze it a notch. It's going to be really tight. But is your mind going to be in the right tuning with that compression? Or is it too tight, aggravating? If it's too aggravating, and if you can only contain it for a very short period of time, then you need to loosen it up. I need to find just about the right level of compression. Here's the rubber strings of the mind. You put them in there, alright? And you tighten it just right. Doesn't fall off. It's not shredded. And then just tighten a little bit more, and just a little bit more, to a point where you are always a couple of millimeters past the comfort zone, because we want to make progress. If you're always in the comfort zone, then that's where you are. Just take it a little notch deeper, stretch it just a little bit longer. Today, if I was sitting here, holding my mind in a particular space for 15 minutes, and I noticed that things are getting wobbly, things are weaving around and drifting a bit much. But up to 12 minutes, I was okay. I was actually keeping it together. Then tomorrow, see if you can hold it for 30. Don't use a clock for it, but as in the general idea, right? Suppose today, I sat for a 30-minute session of meditation, right? Now, the first 5 minutes was crap. I was drifting all over the place, just collecting myself, getting myself together into some sort of a zone of internal attention. Then, the next 15 minutes, I was there. I was simply feeling the flow of breath, the wind going in, flowing out of my being, and I was satisfied, remaining in that very experience. And then I lost my edge. My cognitive resources were depleted because I haven't done my meditation, bodybuilding. The remaining 10 minutes were again drift. I was trying to get it together, but I wasn't done. Whatever, that's all fine. That is called practice. There is no standard of success or failure here. It's simply a process that we pursue, training our mind, training our body, training the brain to stay better in the zone. You will find that tomorrow you sit for the same 30 minutes. Maybe you got 18 minutes of quality time, or maybe you got 20 minutes. And next week you up from half an hour to 3/4 of an hour. And somewhere in the middle there, maybe you get an actual half an hour of proper quality with the in and with the exit. You can also just do it for as long as you want to, as long as you feel like you're being in a meaningful experience. If you're just scattered and just becoming pissed off with the entire process, then just cut it there, but try to hold it. For example, if you set for 20 minutes, if you set for half an hour, try to make that time just to have a container for your mind, a structure for your practice, and then within that time you will be increasing the quality time spent in your contemplation. Don't make it a chore, don't force it, but be open to the experience, enjoy the experience, see what comes. Don't project a particular outcome into it, because if you do, you may not achieve that outcome and you'll be disappointed, or you may achieve that outcome, but that outcome is probably less than would have been available to you if you had simply cleared your mind and been present with whatever it is that is available through the attention that you are establishing. All right? Again, there's breath work. There is the use of mantra. There are 100,000 possible mantras. But suppose the mantra of you're familiar perhaps with Soham, right? I am that, whatever that is. If that is God, that doesn't really, or if God is that, it's equally enlightening, right? But as in you are something greater, in there you are a field of existence greater than the little human being, whatever the particular experience or face of God or membrane of reality may be that, and then see beyond in time and be that, underlying that, etc. So I mean, it's basically good mantra to use. Importantly, it's simple. Attend not to the meaning, as in don't keep explaining in your head, I am that, or am I this, or am I this and that, and what is that, and this is what. That is entirely unproductive. You can do that at some other time, but not during your meditation, right? Gently be present, witness, observe the experience. And in the case of a mantra like Soham, attend to the shape of the sound. There is a certain geometry, a certain frequency in the sound. So, hum, so, hum, so, hum, so, hum, so, hum, so, hum. Feel free to play with the sound. Feel free to play with the pitch. Make it shorter, make it longer, and experience the shape and the living presence and the transformation or the opening that is present in each sound. I am not going to be walking through the philosophy of phonetic geometries and the construction of sequences of sounds towards the generation of particular thought forms and fields of feeling and experience. That is, well, it's simply not relevant for what we're doing here. We are simply here to be present with a particular tone, a particular frequency, and a particular zone, and finding aspects of ourselves within that sound, and using that sound, that frequency, as a means of refining, concentrating the mind and harnessing a certain inner presence corresponding with the particular sound that we are engaged with. No, you don't need to try to combine breath work and sound. Don't initially try to multi-process, right? Work on the breath. If it's the breath you're working on, just stay with the breath. In and out and in and out. That's just your breath there, and that's all there is. And then Okay, so I've done my breathing time. I mean, keep breathing, but you've done your attentional breathing time. Then voice, sound, mantra time. Take your time with that. Spend time. Okay, you will at some point inhale, and while inhaling, even if you keep on repeating the mantra or just give it a gap, give the rest, that's fine. You can also give it a break, give it a gap. Sohang, sohang, sohang. And there's a pleasant silence there. There's a gap, there's a space there, that's fine. Don't be afraid of the space. Don't go anywhere from there. Don't start drifting, but simply enjoy the space until the next wave. Sohang, 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 sohang. Sohang. Find a certain playfulness in the practice, that playfulness, rather than a brute force of pounding the mind in sohang, 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 sohang. That will very quickly become unpleasant, disturbing, agitating, and entirely counterproductive. You need, especially in the initial phase, do not bully your mind. Find a certain playfulness in the practice. Find joy in what you're doing, and a certain flow in what you're doing, and don't be afraid to evolve, to adapt based on what is emerging from within the zone that you work with. If a total tangent, a diversion emerges, then no need to follow that. Okay, that's there, that's fine. Not here, not now, not this time. I return to the flow in the zone that I'm holding and keep that, and I will try and be happy with that, and another time for the other thing to be explored. I am going to zip that there. That's a combined introduction and initial orientation to a couple of basic meditation practices with the use of breath, with the use of sound or mantra. There was a bit more on the mantra there. We'll do a separate recording with more on the breath work, but I suppose you got the gist of it. Simply attend to the in and outflow of the breath in a particular place, tip of your nose, in your throat, chest expanding, contracting your lungs, or all the way deep into your body and out. See where you find your spot, stay there, take it as it comes, explore, and then share the experience, and we'll take it from there. All right?